So, I did not expect to be making this video anytime soon. Mm, this will probably be the mm, saddest video that there'll ever be on my channel. Mm, but it was announced mm, mm, yesterday that Nick Saban mm, has retired as the head coach of Alabama mm, after 17 seasons there, and mm, he mm, is obviously the best football coach ever. Mm, he won uh, 7 national championships, and he won 6 of them at Alabama, mm, and mm, came so close to winning an eighth one this year. And let's be honest, if it hadn't been for that dadgum center uh, snapping the ball mm, to the ground in the playoff game, he would have had an eighth one because they obviously would have beat Washington. And I'm not making excuses for the loss because the center was on the team and didn't play well. But I can't help but think about what could have been. Mm, and mm, I've been watching his Alabama teams dominate college football mm, mm, since I was just tiny, mm, before I was even 10 years old. And mm, right now I'm almost 21 years old. And, so it's just a really sad time. Mm, and mm, I'm actually from uh, Tuscaloosa. I was born over there next to the university. Mm, so mm, mm, I haven't always been an Alabama football fan, uh, but mm, mm, I've always been a big Nick Saban fan, and have kept up closely with uh, his Alabama teams every year, mm, and watched a lot of their games. Mm, mm, he was uh, my favorite coach for sure, and mm, college football will just never be the same without him. Mm, mm, and mm, it was always fun mm, uh, for me, even when I wasn't an Alabama fan, to just like look at their schedule mm, before the season started, and knowing that mm, they were going to have a really good team because Nick Saban was there as their coach, and just thinking like, I wonder who might be able to beat them this year. It was they were the team to beat mm, for 15 years. Mm, I actually got to watch mm, mm, 5 of his national championship wins on TV. Mm, mm. The first one that he won at Alabama, um, where they beat Texas in 2009. Uh, mm, mm, I didn't watch that one because I was so little at the time, but uh, mm, we actually have a DVD of that game, and uh, of course, the championship that he won at LSU, I was way too little at the time. to watch football. That was like 20 years ago, but mm, his uh, second one that he won at Alabama, that was around the time that I started getting interested in football. Uh, the game where mm, they beat LSU mm, and shut them out. Mm, And then mm, uh, I remember the year after that watching the championship game where uh, they blew out Notre Dame, and then uh, the 2015 national championship where they beat Clemson in a close one. Mm, And then mm, the 2017 one where they beat Georgia uh, in overtime mm, mm, on that long touchdown pass to mm, in that game. I'll never forget that one. Mm. And then mm, I remember the 2021 where uh, they blew out Ohio State, and of course that was during a very bad time. Uh, so you almost don't even want to remember anything from that year. But mm, uh, he also uh, didn't just coach in those 7 championships that he won. Uh, mm, mm, he actually coached in 10 championships. There were 3 that he lost. He lost the last one that he coached in to Georgia. Um, mm, and mm, in the 10 years that there was the 14 playoff, mm, mm, uh, he took Alabama to the playoffs 8 times out of 10 years. That was just amazing uh, because it is so hard to get in a 14 playoff, but just one year, but to do it 8 years out of 10 is just so good. And he actually uh, took them there the first 5 seasons of the 14 playoff every year. Mm, and won 3 championships in the 10 years of the 14 playoff, and coached in 6 championships during that time. Mm, mm. So, mm, so many good memories of Nick Saban. Mm, And college football was already going to be so different this season, with all the conference changes and then the 12-team playoff coming. But now it's just gotten a million times stranger because there'll be no Nick Saban standing on the sidelines coaching for Alabama on fall Saturdays anymore. Mm, this was really mm, a bigger change for the sport than any of that other stuff was. Mm, mm, just uh, mm, even though it's over, mm, I'm just so thankful that I got to uh, live through that, mm, watching it growing up, mm, and even as a young adult. Mm, and I really got to mm, live through the best times of college football because now mm, the Pac-12 conference is, of course, coming to an end, mm, and then mm, this 12-team playoff that's coming up is gonna be bad for college football. The 14 playoff was the best. It was uh, better than the top two championship before it, and, and much better than this top 12 thing that's coming up. And then also, mm, it was nice getting to enjoy the Red River rivalry, being from the Big 12 conference, which that rivalry is not going away, but now it's going to be an SEC rivalry, and it just doesn't feel right. Mm, mm. And mm, mm, I'm actually a longtime Ole Miss fan. I've liked them since mm, I first started watching it. Mm, They've been my favorite team, and actually, just this season, I started liking Alabama the most mm, because of how good they were with Nick Saban. But mm, I'm a rebel for life, mm, and Ole Miss will always be my favorite team. Mm, Uh, mm, I remember like it was just yesterday. Those 2 years in a row where mm, Ole Miss beat Alabama. Mm, Watching them when I was 11 and 12 years old, mm, and mm, mm, I was just so happy to see it because mm, not just seeing them win a game, but uh, seeing them get a win against the best coach in college football to ever do it. Mm, mm, mm. They were actually the only team in my time of watching football that beat Nick Saban 2 times in a row. Mm, And mm, in that 2015 championship season that Alabama had, they were the only team in the country that beat them. Mm, 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 And mm, uh, when Nick Saban first got to Alabama, of course, I was too little to keep up with football at the time, but uh, I've looked at the history, and mm, they were like the Nebraska of today. You know, a team that was once one of the best programs, but it had become a terrible team. And almost immediately, Nick Saban got them back to a dominant team. His first year there didn't go very well, but in his second year, he got them to a perfect 12-0 season in the regular season, and then the third year he won a national championship at an undefeated 14-0 season. Mm, mm. And mm, the last 16 uh, mm, seasons of the 17 that Nick Saban was there, every year Alabama won at least 10 games in a season. That is just amazing, and uh, I mm, don't think there'll ever be anything like that again, at least not in my lifetime. Mm, And uh, mm, since I got into football, which has been over 10 uh, years now, I'd never seen Alabama lose more than 2 games in a season. They were that good. And uh, mm, uh, actually, mm, this was the first time that since Nick Saban got to Alabama that they had gone 3 years in a row without winning a national championship. He was that good. Mm, mm. And mm, there just won't be another coach. I don't think like him, probably ever. And mm, who will replace Nick Saban at Alabama? uh, uh, the true answer to that is no one. Mm, there's no one, that, uh, no coach in the country right now that Alabama could get that could give them what Nick Saban has given them in this amount of time. Mm, they could even bring in Kirby Smart from Georgia, who uh, was the second best coach to Saban, and he couldn't even give them what Nick Saban has given them. Mm, but mm, who will be the next head coach of Alabama? Mm, I really have no idea. And mm, whoever it is going to be under a whole lot of pressure because they're going to be replacing the best coach ever. Uh, and if they don't win a whole lot of games mm, every season, they will get fired there. So I know you would think that because Alabama's the best program in the country, that mm, it would mm, be a job that any coach would be wanting now. But I actually think it's the opposite because of who they're having to replace if they go there. Mm, And most coaches, I don't think, are going to want that kind of pressure. Mm, But it will be interesting to see who uh, uh, is the new head coach there, and why he's retiring right now. Uh, I don't know mm, the real for sure answer to that, but uh, uh, he is 72 years old now, and mm, he said that uh, this last season he wasn't able to coach as easily uh, because of his age as he had been before. Uh, mm, and I know he also didn't like the transfer portal stuff that uh, has been going on. And I really hate that. The transfer portal is awful. And I'll probably talk a lot more about that in a different video. Mm, but I really thought that he was going to be around for at least 5 more years. His contract lasted through the 2029 season, and I thought he would at least coach close to that long. I thought he might even coach past that contract because of the stuff that he had said before, like he loves coaching and doesn't know what he'd do with out being a coach. Mm, but mm, after all that he's done, mm, he deserves to have a good retirement while he's still pretty healthy. Mm, and mm, mm, I'm not emotional, but when I found out uh, mm, the news yesterday evening that he was retiring, mm, I actually teared up a little bit just thinking about all the memories uh, mm, watching his teams. Mm, and mm, I was gonna film a video yesterday mm, about how I think the rankings should have ended, and I still will film that video. It'll be posted probably in a couple of days, but I just couldn't film it after I got that news. Mm, just wasn't in the mood. Mm, I was actually mm, for a few minutes. wondering if I would even keep the channel or even keep watching football after hearing that. But mm, mm, I decided I don't want to let that stop me from mm, mm, doing what I love. Mm, and mm, mm. Alabama as a program, I don't think that they're gonna uh, fall apart immediately to back to how they were before Nick Saban got there. But uh, mm, uh, no doubt they're gonna fall off some. They just won't be able to keep that kind of success up without him. He was too good of a coach, mm, and mm, mm, he uh, I know didn't call plays mm, on either side of the ball, but you could tell during the games that he was very involved with the coaching, mm, mm, like with the formations and working with the players, and he was very involved with the practices, and just a lot of head coaches nowadays aren't really like that. They're, mm, they're kind of just like a manager. Mm, but Nick Saban wasn't like that. Mm, mm, and mm, he knew just how to uh, build a championship type roster. Mm, he always recruited really good offensive lines and uh, mm, a really good defense at every position. So uh, mm, they didn't have to have uh, the best quarterbacks or running backs or receivers because their offensive line was always so good that uh, mm, it could make an average running back look good. Mm, and he always had a quarterback that could at least manage the game for them and make the plays when they needed them to. And he usually always had at least one really good receiver to go to. And uh, mm, I remember in the 2015 season when uh, mm, he had Derrick Henry playing running back who mm, won that Heisman Trophy and uh, mm, ran for over 2,200 yards in a season, and he still plays in the NFL. So that was probably the best uh, running back that uh, they ever had with Nick Saban coaching. But uh, mm, uh, they've had a whole lot of good running backs mm, there, and uh, mm, even though they haven't always had uh, the best quarterbacks or the best receiving units. Mm, 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 mm. He knew how to win games because uh, if the defense played really well to where the opponent couldn't score much, they didn't have to score a lot, so they didn't need a quarterback that would throw for 300 yards a game, and to where they'd score 40 something points in nearly every game. That they just needed to score in the 20s to win a game, really, pretty much all the time. And uh, mm, also, mm, he always mm, made sure to have really good special teams too, which that's really important because field position matters a lot. And in that Rose Bowl game, Alabama actually dominated Michigan on its special teams. That's why it went into overtime. Really, mm, mm. A lot of coaches, now just want to score a bunch of points and don't really care that much about defense. But uh, Nick Saban was uh, most of all an expert on defense, but he was also an expert on offense and special teams too. And I think probably Alabama will want a, a kind of a defensive expert to be the new coach now, but I don't know for sure. Mm, mm, uh, but mm, he coached for 50 years, mm, and he spent, I think, 28 seasons as a head coach. Of course, over half of that was at Alabama. And uh, just seeing someone else next season uh, uh, on the sideline coaching the Alabama football team is just gonna feel so weird. It's something that I've never seen before, and it could never picture really. Mm, mm. But mm, mm. Sadly, that's what's happening. It's just too bad. And you can talk to me in the comments about this, and uh, I'll try to do my best to respond to you. Mm, but, mm, mm. Also, something else great about Nick Saban was that he didn't always do that. Mm, uh, Going for it on fourth down when you can kick an easy field goal stuff, or the not punting when like you're uh, uh, 65 yards away from the end zone, where like if you don't convert the fourth down, uh, the other team gets it 35 yards away from the end zone, stuff like that. That a lot of coaches are doing now, especially Lane Kiffin, who is the coach at Ole Miss, and uh, mm, Nick Saban actually uh, saved Lane Kiffin's coaching career. Lane Kiffin got fired at USC as the head coach, and then Nick Saban gave him a chance to be their offensive coordinator there, and he uh, worked for them for several years, and then got back into head coaching, and then ended up being at Ole Miss, and mm, mm, they just had their best season ever, winning 11 games. And then Kirby Smart, worked for Nick Saban for uh, a bunch of seasons at Alabama as the defensive coordinator, and uh, now he's got Georgia, uh, one of the best programs in the country. Mm, Learning from Nick Saban. Mm, then uh, mm, there's also Sarkeesian from Texas, who uh, worked for Nick Saban right before taking the Texas job as head coach there. He worked as Saban's offensive coordinator at Alabama. And, you know, uh, he was able to beat Nick Saban this season and get Texas back to being a really good program. Got them to the college football playoff. Uh, so it's not just about what Nick Saban has done just himself as a coach, but what he's done for other coaches, helping them become successful. Mm, mm, mm. So he'll just really be missed, and mm, he was a big part of why I watched college football, why I loved it so much. Mm, mm, so actually won't be as interesting anymore for me. but mm, I won't let it stop me from enjoying football still. Mm, and mm, mm, that will be about it with this video. Please subscribe to the channel, and mm, mm, I'll be doing another video in a couple of days.